A man bought forgotten land for almost nothing and found a door to the past that forced him to decide if some discoveries are meant to stay buried or if they carry the weight to change everything. What he pulled from that darkness was not just treasure, but a test of who he really was. Before we dive in, what time are you listening? Where are you from? Drop a comment below and tell me, and please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Marcus stood at the edge of the property line, staring at the overgrown wasteland he now owned. 73 years old, retired for 5 years, and he had just spent his last savings on this abandoned plot outside the city limits. His children thought he had lost his mind. His neighbors whispered that old age had finally caught him, but Marcus saw something they did not. He saw possibility wrapped in weeds and decay. The real estate agent had laughed when Marcus offered such a low bid. The land had been abandoned for decades, tangled in legal disputes and unpaid taxes. No one wanted it. No one except Marcus. He walked the perimeter that first morning, his boots crunching through dead grass and forgotten debris. That is when he saw it. A wooden structure leaning against the far corner, half collapsed and barely visible beneath wild vines. A shed, rotted and grey, its door hanging by a single rusted hinge. Marcus approached slowly, his heart beating faster than it should. Something about that shed pulled at him, whispered to him. He reached the door and tried to push it open, but the wood had swollen with years of rain and neglect. He shoved harder, using his shoulder, and the door gave way with a groan that sounded almost human. Inside, the air was thick and stale. Dust particles danced in the narrow beams of sunlight that leaked through gaps in the walls. The shed was empty except for a few broken tools and a pile of rotting canvas in the corner. Marcus stepped inside carefully, testing each floorboard before putting his full weight down. That is when he noticed it. The floor in the center was different. The boards were cleaner, less weathered, as if they had been replaced more recently than the rest. He knelt down and ran his fingers along the edges. There was a seam, almost invisible, but there. Marcus pulled at the boards with his hands, and they lifted easily, too easily. Beneath them was a metal hatch, dull and scratched, but still solid. His breath caught in his throat. This was not part of any structure he had seen in the property. Records. This was hidden, intentionally hidden. He gripped the handle and pulled. The hatch resisted at first, then opened with a metallic screech that echoed into the darkness below. A ladder descended into blackness. Marcus retrieved a flashlight from his truck and returned, his hands shaking slightly as he clicked it on and aimed the beam down into the hole. The ladder went deep, deeper than any basement should go. He hesitated only for a moment before he began to climb down. The air grew colder with each rung. The walls around him were concrete, smooth and deliberate. This was not a natural formation. This was built. At the bottom, Marcus stepped into a corridor that stretched ahead of him, disappearing beyond the reach of his flashlight. The floor was level, the walls lined with old pipes and electrical conduits that had long since stopped working. He moved forward slowly, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The corridor opened into a room, and Marcus stopped in the doorway, his flashlight sweeping across the space. It was a refuge, a bunker built for survival. There were metal shelves stacked with canned goods, now rusted and swollen, a table in the center, 2 chairs, a cot against the wall. But what caught his attention was the chest in the far corner. It was large, made of dark wood reinforced with iron bands, and it sat there like it had been waiting for him. Marcus approached it, his pulse pounding in his ears. The chest was not locked. He lifted the lid, and the hinges groaned in protest. Inside was a fortune, stacks of cash, yellowed with age but still intact. Gold coins, dozens of them, gleaming even in the dim light of his flashlight. Jewelry, watches, certificates of ownership for properties long forgotten. Marcus sank to his knees, his hands trembling as he reached into the chest. This was real. This was not some fantasy or mistake. This was wealth beyond anything he had ever imagined. But beneath the treasure, at the very bottom of the chest, was something else. A leather journal, worn and cracked. Marcus pulled it out and opened it carefully. The handwriting inside was shaky but legible. It belonged to a man named Samuel, and the entries were dated decades ago. Samuel had been a builder, a contractor who had worked on projects throughout the region, but he had also been something else, a man who skimmed, who took, who hid what he stole from the people and companies that trusted him. The journal detailed it all: the money taken from community projects, the funds meant for schools and hospitals that never arrived, the bribes, and the shortcuts that left buildings crumbling and families suffering. Samuel had built this refuge as his escape, his hideaway if anyone ever came looking, but no one ever did. He had died before he could use it, and the land had been forgotten, locked in legal limbo until Marcus bought it for pennies. Marcus sat on the floor of that bunker, the journal in one hand, the treasure surrounding him, and he felt the weight of it all pressing down on his chest. This fortune was built on suffering. Every coin, every bill, every piece of jewelry represented something stolen, something taken from people who needed it. He could take it. He could walk away, sell it quietly, live the rest of his life in comfort. No one would ever know, but he would know. Marcus climbed back up the ladder, the journal tucked under his arm, and stood in the shed as the afternoon light slanted through the broken walls. He thought about his life, about the years he had worked in factories and warehouses, about the struggles and the small victories. He thought about the neighborhood he lived in now, the crumbling sidewalks and closed storefronts, the families barely holding on. He thought about what this money could do if it was used the way it should have been used all those years ago. That night, Marcus did not sleep. He sat at his kitchen table, the journal open in front of him, and he made a decision. He would not keep the treasure. He would not sell it for his own gain. He would return it, not to Samuel's ghost, but to the community that had been robbed. It took months. Marcus worked with lawyers and local officials, navigating red tape and suspicion. He donated the money anonymously at first, but word spread. The old man who found a fortune and gave it away. People did not believe it at first. But then the projects started. A new community center opened. The school received funding for repairs and new equipment. Small businesses received grants to reopen. The neighborhood began to breathe again. Marcus watched it all from a distance, never taking credit, never asking for recognition. But people knew. They saw him walking the streets, and they nodded, they smiled, they thanked him. Some called him foolish. His own children barely spoke to him, angry that he had given away their inheritance. But Marcus did not care. For the first time in years, he felt light. He felt free. The treasure had been a test, and he had chosen. Not the quiet retirement, not the easy path, but the one that meant something, the one that healed instead of hiding. Months later, Marcus stood at the edge of that same property, watching as workers demolished the old shed. The bunker below had been filled in, sealed forever. The land would be turned into a park, a place for children to play and families to gather. As the sun set, Marcus turned and walked away, his hands in his pockets, his heart at peace. Some discoveries are not meant to be kept. Some are meant to be given back. And in giving, Marcus had found something far more valuable than any treasure. He had found his purpose. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos like this.